The water sprinkler system. The water sprinkler system comes off this main tap on the main line. This valve controls whether the water is going to flow through the system or not. The pipe comes up, does a U-turn, comes down, does another U-turn, goes past this pressure sensor, and then goes out. Turns into a white pipe, which then goes out to the back where the controller is for the system. This big tank here is for the Rid-O-Rust solution. Rid-O-Rust is an iron neutralizer. It comes in a concentrated form. So what we need to do is to dilute it before it's used. To do that, we remove the cap here. You put your concentrate in, and then we add water. So it's about a 30-to-1 ratio. This is a 30-gallon tank. So you're putting a gallon in, something like that. You'll have to look at the directions on the Rid-O-Rust concentrate to see what the actual ratio is. The hose has a valve here that turns it on and off. So you fill that up to the top with the solution. Put the cap back on. On top of the tank is a pump, which will pump the solution out and up and into the line. So when water is running through the solution, through the system, it gets injected here. And that pump is controlled by this pressure sensor. So when water is flowing through the system, the pressure sensor will see that and turn the pump on, which then puts the solution into the system. The Rid-O-Rust concentrate is fairly expensive. So I've decided I'm only going to run it on the zones in the system that are close to the house. There's 10 zones, really only 3 of them are close to the house. So I'm using a program on the controller for the system outside in conjunction with this controller. It's essentially a programmable timer, and that controls when the pressure sensor works. And by controlling that, I can control when the pump works. So really the pump's only going to run when that timer says it should run. So working in concert with the program running on the system, I can control when that happens. Here we see a map of the yard and the zones. It's a rather crude map, so you have to forgive me for that, but this is the house, the front sidewalk, the driveway leading out to the road, the mailbox is here. We can see the zones are these lines here with little circles on them. The circles are where the sprinkler heads are. This is zone 1, which is out by the road. Zone 2 is in the middle of the front yard. Zone 3 runs along the driveway and then right along the front of the house. Zone 4 is right along the south side of the house. Then for 5, we jump all the way to the back of the lawn area. Way out there. 6 is a little closer. 7 is a little closer still. And 8 is now right up by the house, right by the back of the garage, and then right by the back patio. 9 is right along the north side of the driveway, and zone 10 is out by the mailbox. I call them zones. This sheet of paper calls them stations. You can see the stations 1 through 10 are programmed. There are 3 programs running. Program 1 is for the zones that are near the house. Zone 2 is the front yard. Zone 3 is the backyard. So let's take a little bit closer look. We'll see up at the top here, the days of the week are 1 through 7, which is Monday through Sunday. We set the interval to 1, which means it doesn't repeat. It only runs on the day selected. For program A, I only have day 3 selected, which is Wednesday. It starts at 2 a.m., and then it runs for 1 hour on zone 3, then 1 hour on zone 4, and 1 hour on zone 8. If you remember back on this map, 3, 4, and 8 were the zones near the house. On those days, I'm going to have the Rid-O-Rust turned on. For program B, this is the front yard. I've got different days selected, 1 and 4. Starts at 2 a.m., runs for an hour on zone 1, an hour on zone 2, and then an hour on zone 10. So we've got zone 1, 2, and 10. That's the front yard. On those, we do not run the Rid-O-Rust. It's off. Program C is days 2 and 5. This starts at 1 o'clock. I start an hour earlier because there's 4 zones in this particular program. It runs for an hour on zone 5, then 6, then 7, and then an hour on zone 9. So that's it starts an hour earlier, but there's an extra hour of runtime, so it finishes at the same time. And again, no Ritter Rust in that program. So that's what's programmed on the programmer out on the system itself. And then the timer controls when that pump is going to pump out Ritter Rust. By default, it's on all the time. And the timer only invokes itself to turn off the system when I'm running on those zones away from those houses. So by default, Ritter Rust is always going to run, except when I've explicitly said, I'm doing those zones away from the house, so I'm going to turn it off. That way, if somebody goes to the controller out there and turns on the system for some reason, you will have Ritter Rust running, so you don't have to worry about staining. I'll leave this and this folder up in the drawer in the kitchen, right as you come in the kitchen on the left, the top drawer, where the other manuals for appliances are.